Today we have almost impossible access to get, but we got it.
I've been in 2 plural families myself, so I could say I'm a polygamist wife.
This isn't for everybody.
BMW stands for Big Mormon Wagon.
And we had one.
You'd be open to a plural marriage, and you're 85.
I want to build a bridge so that people won't be afraid of us.
You think it's like a natural human thing?
I do.
That is the all-seeing eye of God.
What if a gay couple tried to come into your church? You're a plural marriage twin.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I
Warren
would
Jeffs,
say
you
Warren
could.
Jeffs is horrible.
It's like a rival Washington, D.C. They had their own currency, had their own language,
Own language.
the Deset Alphabet.
Can you
So-
leave at any time if you want?
There's 22 of us total, myself included.
We might be different, come from different walks of life, believe different things, but we're all people.
Good morning, guys. Today we have a very interesting video. That is with Mormon fundamentalists. These are the Mormons that still practice polygamy, or as they say, plural marriages. Now, in all the Mormons that exist in this world, the roughly 17 million of them, under half of 1% have stayed to the fundamentalist doctrine. We're gonna get in with some of these fundamentalists to see how they live, understand plural marriage better, and get an inside look of a world that most of us will never see. Let's do this. Am I in this or no?
You're all in.
All in.
One more time, 1, 2, 3.
Awesome.
How many different fundamentalist groups?
I think at least 200.
Yeah, they
wow.
gave us that.
You don't want to be on
yesterday,
camera?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay, cool.
I don't want to do it in front of the LDS representatives here. I want to
Okay.
be respectful
Okay,
to
gotcha.
them. So,
There's a big difference between you, or what? What is that?
yes, we believe in the fundamental principles that Joseph Smith and Brigham Young taught,
Okay.
and they've taken those away. They've taken celestial plural marriage away because of all the opposition from the government, United States government.
When did they take that away?
1890 was the manifesto.
Oh, a long time ago.
Yeah. They've actually persecuted a lot of the people that believe in celestial plural marriage, tried to rip families apart.
Why do you call it
Like the-
celestial?
There are different ordinances and things that you comply with in order to make it so there's more harmony in the home. I've been in 2 plural families myself,
Okay.
so I could say I'm a polygamist wife.
So you had a sister wife?
Oh, many sister wives.
Many.
Yes.
How many?
Annette's actually one of my sister wives. The one
Who's
with the
Annette?
dark hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the left?
Our husband passed away
Oh, I'm sorry.
in 2015. With her family, I had her and one other person. And then in the previous family, there was 5 of us. Both of the husbands had health issues. So,
Okay. So walk us through someone that doesn't know that world at all. Is it super challenging, or what's it like having multiple sister wives and one man?
there's challenges,
Okay.
but you learn to rise above those and to love each other and to care for each other and for each other's children. It's just a different attitude and perspective is what I say. You have to take
Okay.
on, you have to get over your fears and jealousies.
Okay. Can you
So-
leave at any time if you want, or no?
You can if you want. There's free agency. Free agency is
Free agency.
highly honored.
In your fundamentalist sect, not in all of them, right? Some of them, like Warren
I would
Jeffs.
say
you
Warren
can-
Jeffs is horrible.
That's
That is-
FL. That's known as FLDS.
Yeah, there's a lot of mind control
Okay.
in that, and
Okay.
we don't believe in mind control. We believe in free agency. We are encouraged to keep our covenants and try to work through our differences, of
Okay.
course, but nobody is going to be hunted down and killed. Like, you know, you've heard of the LeBaron. Some of the LeBaron groups have actually killed their members if
Okay.
they left, and we do not believe in that at all.
Okay.
We believe that our husbands are supposed to be called on missions and do the Lord's work, and so they're not always around. And so it's nice to have that close-knit companionship with other women. A woman relates to another woman a lot better sometimes, and to help be supportive to each other and help each other's children. So
How many children did you have in your family then?
Okay, so in my previous family, I had 2 boys from my previous marriage and 2 daughters in that marriage. So I had 4. My other sister wife had 6. The other sister wife had 5. And then our husband actually had a first wife that chose not to be a part of it.
Okay.
And she had 7 children. So we had those children too. So
Wow.
I would have to add a lot, but quite a few children.
Did you forget names?
No,
Never.
no.
Are you like under one roof, one house?
There was times we were, and there was times we had our own separate abodes, just depending upon the circumstances and
Okay.
what was happening. And as the family grew, it kind of was better to have our own abodes, but to still come together. We always came together for many functions.
And now you're not in a plural relationship?
I'm not right
Okay.
now. I would like to become in that again, but my current husband is kind of not sure if he's ready for that.
Okay, yeah.
He's a little scared.
See,
I'm the eager one, and he's scared.
See, I would have thought it was the opposite. I would have thought it was the men pushing this, and
Not
the-
always.
Not always.
Not always. With my mother and my father, it was my mom pushing it. My dad was the one that was holding back.
Interesting.
Yes,
Wow.
because he realized the responsibility and was like, "Can I make sure everybody's happy?" And
The financial responsibility
Yeah.
is massive.
that's very massive. So most of the time, all of us are going to work, or there's certain wives that will go to work, and others will take care of their kids and help teach them, and or they'll take turns. So not every family is the same.
Do you think plural marriage is a natural thing because it comes from your God, your scripture, let's say?
Well, the way we
Or-
look at it is, if there's a really good man that's righteous and that wants to be honorable to his women and to the children, he should have that opportunity to be the father of as many children as possible. And we believe that when we come down here, we are to provide physical bodies for our spirit brothers and sisters.
Okay.
And we want them to have the greatest opportunity to be raised in a righteous family, instead of like a lot of people out in the world, the woman has the children, but the man is off doing his own thing and not being honorable to her. So
What do you mean, like cheating on the wife? Is that what you
cheating
mean?
on the wife, or drinking, or just doing things that is not trying to be uplifting and help be a righteous priesthood head. There's a lot of really good men out there that are honorable to their wives and good like that. But we just feel like if there is someone honorable and trying to uphold their priesthood callings, they should be given that opportunity. So we don't
Okay.
believe celestial plural marriage is for everyone. It's for only those that really want to.
So there's not a pressure in your religion?
Yeah, we have a lot
that
of people that
You don't
haven't-
have to be?
No.
Okay. The name of your religion, your church, I'm sorry.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Righteous Branch.
The Righteous Branch. Okay.
Yes.
So that's obviously not FLDS, but you're fundamentalists.
Yes.
It's a bit
There's a
confusing,
lot of different
right?
groups. You're going
Yeah.
to hear of the AUB and the FLDS and the Short Creek group, and you're going to hear a lot of different groups.
Okay. Do you all get along, or you stay to yourselves, or?
We have interacted some.
Okay.
Some people don't want to interact with us. Some people are fine. I've gone to LDS church meetings because my current husband is LDS right now.
Okay. So if your husband agreed to going into a plural marriage, you would want him to pick your sister wife. You would want him to pick, or how does that work?
How it works is we actually don't pick them. We can have inspiration or a witness or a dream, but we have a prophet, and we
Okay.
believe that the women are supposed to, if they want to be in a family, they need to go put their name in with the prophet and just say, well, I would like the will of the Lord. Will you please pray? But the prophet also, on the other hand, he also honors the free agency that I said once again. So the woman has her final choice. No woman
So
should be forced.
the prophet makes the choice, or comes up with the candidate, but the woman makes the final choice.
That is correct. And then if she says, yes, I want to do, whatever it is that you say, and she's
Yeah.
willing to do that, then he will notify the appropriate parties and ask them to get their own witness. They have to have their witness too.
Okay.
So everybody has to have their witness And, you know, there's like a check and balance in there. So it's not just a man running off doing his own thing behind.
There's a structure to it.
There's a structure. Yes,
Okay.
there's some guidelines to try to keep order. And
Wow.
we don't believe in courting and dating. We believe in that we try to find out who it was in the pre-existence that we covenanted with
Okay.
to be with in this life.
So only arranged marriages. It's like Indians.
Kind of like that.
Like traditional Indians, right?
Yeah, like that.
And
So-
what I learned in India, this is what people would tell me, because it seems like such a far out concept for, say, secular Americans.
Yeah.
They said, you form your relationship through lust or romantic love,
Yeah.
but in our arranged marriages, you come together not in lust,
Yeah.
but you spend the rest of your life falling in love. That's what he told me.
Yes. Yes.
I found
Well,
that interesting.
if you look at the Bible, that's pretty much how the marriages were in the Bible too.
Yeah. For us Gentiles, you know, outside of the religion, do you look at our behavior as a bit immoral? You know, you're dating someone here, you're dating someone there, you're just choosing on your own. What would your view of that be?
We don't have, I personally don't condemn anybody. I feel
Okay.
Heavenly Father has given everyone the right to have free agency. And not everyone's going to choose to believe the same way as we
Okay.
are. And
Yeah.
we are not the judge of our brothers and sisters. We are to just do what we feel is right and be an example of
Okay.
love and charity towards others. And we don't look at that way as what we want to do.
Mhm.
But, you know, if our youth grow up and say, hey, I want to go out and I want to try that and we can't stop them. You know, we can encourage them,
Yep.
you know, but I mean, I have daughters of my own that have chosen to go a different path.
Okay.
And I still love my daughters. I still will, because God is unconditional in his
Is
love.
it tough though, as a mother?
It hurts,
Yeah.
yeah, because the way we believe it is if you don't have the marriages that Heavenly Father wants, that in the next life you won't be married. You will be single. You'll eternally be single. That's why celestial plural marriage is for if you want to become a God again,
Yep.
yourself.
So you want your daughters to become polygamous. That would be perfect if possible.
I would like them to enter that, but I am not
Okay.
going to
Push
force
it.
that
Yep.
because that's a personal choice. They have to decide for themselves what they can handle and what they want and what they're willing to sacrifice for.
Yep.
So,
Here's the legend.
BMW stands for Big Mormon Wagon.
and we had one with all of our little kidleys.
Okay, so sister wife.
We used to be. Yeah.
Are you still in a plural relationship or no?
I'm not. I
Okay.
haven't gotten remarried yet.
Do you miss it or do you like
In
the
a way, I do. We became best friends, so we always hung out. We did things together. We had a babysitter if we needed to.
Okay.
Didn't have to pay for a babysitter.
Sure.
Our kids hung out, and they had, association and friends with one another. That
Okay.
was great. We always did things together as a family. We would take vacations together as family. Of course, you don't have as much time with your husband as you would in a monogamous marriage, but that's
Right.
a sacrifice that you do, and you learn to love the other wives just as much
As the husband.
as the husband.
How does it work in a plural marriage? Like one day you have, let's say, rights or whatever. You have full attention. The next day the other wife does. The next day the other wife does. Or how does that work?
In a way, yeah, that's what it was. Me and the other wife, not Trina, we would live actually in the same house.
Okay.
So I got to see him quite a bit. We'd have our separate rooms, but we shared the house, we shared the kitchen, we shared the living room,
Okay.
family time. So
Big family meals.
Right, big family meals. So everything was, together. Trina actually had her own home,
Mm-hmm.
and so she would only be able to see him when he went over there.
Okay.
Where me, I got to see him more. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Was it ever hard? Like if you had a great 24 hours, let's say, with your husband, and then he has to leave and go to the other wife. Was that ever a big challenge, or it's just something you accept and it's just normal?
That wasn't, to me, it's normally just something I accepted.
Okay.
Because I knew within me
Mm-hmm.
that he loved them just as much as he loved me. And as long as I knew that he loved me, it didn't matter to me.
And did you grow up in a family like this, or how did you
No.
get into it?
No, my parents were not monogamous. They didn't. My dad did have a plural wife when I was younger,
Okay.
but she ended up leaving. He never got another one, so I didn't get to see it a whole lot growing up. My dad found Christ Church just before I turned 8 years old.
Okay.
And so, of course, I'm young. I just go to church with them. And so I eventually learned and grew in regards to our church and our religion. I knew that it was, true and is a true principle to live. I got married when I was a teenager. So,
What, a teenager? How old?
16.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Was it arranged or no?
No,
You
it
wanted.
was my choice.
Okay. Is that normal in the church? 16?
No. Oh, hell no. Way back then, it was totally different. Now that they only allow 18 or older.
Okay.
And it's always the female's choice. It's her decision.
Was it
Free
back then,
agency. Yes.
the female's decision?
Yep.
But in FLDS, it was different. They chose and they had to go into it, right?
Right.
You think it's interesting I'm going out to Spring Creek tomorrow
Uh-huh.
to see a former FLDS member?
I'm curious.
So you're curious about that?
No, I'm not curious in regards to them. I'm curious in regards to what response you're going to get
Yeah.
out there. Because I've heard a lot of stuff.
So do you think it's natural in us, plural marriages? You think it's like a natural human thing?
I do.
Okay. So you feel like if all like the societal rules went away, most guys would be down with this.
Most of them, yeah. Who wouldn't?
But most women wouldn't be.
Right. Because I think women are a lot more jealous in nature than men.
So Benjamin,
Yeah.
tell us what makes you different than your average LDS member.
Okay, so we're all Mormons, right? Or at least
See,
they
they
used to use that word. but
they
now
say they're not Mormon.
We are Mormons.
Okay.
We're still Mormons.
Okay, this gets confusing, guys, but I learned this in Salt Lake. When I said Mormon, they're like, no, say LDS or even Church of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't know why they changed that. because we are Mormons.
That's
Okay.
a recent thing. It probably won't stick anyway. But
I'm sure everyone
To be
is going to
honest.
agree with that one.
but yeah, it's a thing they're doing right now. They're trying to emphasize the name of Jesus Christ and emphasize their connection and belief in Jesus, and I think that's laudable. But it just doesn't work grammatically. Mormonism is a type of person. It's a type of ethnicity, even. It's a type of religious belief. It's that's just the way it always has been. It's just going to continue to be part of the English language.
Okay.
But yeah, no, we still identify as Mormons. And what makes us different from
And you're
other
you're
Mormons?
considered fundamentalist Mormon, but not FLDS.
Right. So the FLDS is a specific church within Mormon fundamentalism. They were established in 1993. And it's only one small subset. They're the ones that you're going to see a lot of media on. But mostly because of the tragedies and terrible things that have happened in their community.
Warren Jeffs is their leader.
Warren Jeffs is their leader, and
Running it from prison right now.
well, and he's hardly running anything.
Okay.
But he's he's in prison for good reason.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, their whole community has been torn apart by the evils and corruptions and violence that has gone on in their community. So,
Okay.
we
So
have
you have nothing
and we-
to do with them.
nothing to do with them. No more than
Okay.
any other Mormon would have anything to do with them.
Okay, gotcha.
Totally separate history, separate leaders, separate communities.
So even most LDS members will put you under one group.
Well, a lot of, generally LDS members view it like they think that they're the original.
Okay.
We think they're the break-off group.
You think
But-
you're the original.
We think we're the original. And that's kind of why we don't argue with the term fundamentalist very much. The term fundamentalist was actually coined by the PR department of the mainstream LDS Church. The Mormon fundamentalist moniker, we usually embrace it because it means that we stick with the fundamentals, and we do. We believe in all of the doctrines, practices, ordinances that original Mormonism had in it. So that includes things like the original temple ceremonies. They've changed their ceremonies. We still practice the United Order and plural marriage and believe in the original doctrines of who God is. And they've changed these things throughout the years.
So they have a president that is their leader. So every president changes the rules a bit, or how does that work?
To some extent, that's sort of true, but I like a lot of people will be familiar with the boiling a frog analogy. They don't change everything all at once.
Okay.
But over the 200 years of Mormon history, they've changed a lot.
Okay.
We're trying to stay with the original, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're like static. We have a dynamic community. We believe that God is still speaking, still revealing His will on the earth, and still has prophets and apostles and all of those things. But the difference is that to us, certain things are so fundamental that they cannot be changed. Otherwise, God would be a different God. If God says one day that this is righteousness and that is evil, then the next day He changes His commandments, He changes His rules, or He changes the ceremonies that represent that, like baptism, things like that, then we don't believe it's the same church anymore. And so I would say I never left the mainstream LDS church, but the church left the gospel. The church broke away.
But what
we
about
just
the
stayed.
17 million members in the world? The vast majority are going that way.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, the main thing that the mainstream church is doing is trying to make sure that it fits with the world. It fits in, right? They're trying to be mainstream Christians. They're trying to be like everybody else. That's not, and that's a way to be popular, sure. But if you just tell people what they want to hear, you're not necessarily telling them the truth.
You're styling there. I like your
dress
sweatshirt. And...
like our own taste, you know,
Right.
but modest. I was married when I joined this church, and he joined it too. He died shortly thereafter,
Okay.
so I'm a widow. I'm sealed to him for eternity. I consider myself married. If the prophet said to me, now you need to go get married to somebody, and I always get my choice, I would say I would rather say no, but if the Lord wants me to do this, that's what I will do, because He has a growth opportunity, and plural marriage is a growth opportunity.
Growth opportunity, but you're not going to have kids now. What do you mean by growth opportunity?
I'm 85. Well, patience, learning to love the other wives.
So you'd be open to a plural marriage, correct? Or
Yes,
no?
I have a great deal of love. I've had testimony of plural marriage for many years. I married a man who was many years my senior, and I still love him dearly. If any marriage fails, it's because of two main things: selfishness and jealousy. One of the big things about this church is we always have our agency.
Okay.
Our agency is never taken away from us.
That's the beauty of it, huh?
That's part of the beauty of it. Part of it is that we claim that our priesthood authority goes back to Jesus Christ. And I've been reading the scriptures since I was 20. So you do the math.
65 years ago.
Yeah, 65 years. I've been reading the scriptures daily. I'm on my 52nd reading of the scriptures all the way through. Pretty hard to fool me.
That is the all-seeing eye of God. That's just a symbol. It's on our dollar bill, and it represents God watching over us. And it's a symbol that was used in the 19th century, very prevalent back in New England. The people who built this building came from New England.
So you were worried people will think it's cultish if they see
Well,
that
they
eye
see
up
it and
there.
they don't understand it.
Masonic symbol.
It's that, but it's more than that. We sing hymns in church about beneath God's watchful eye, whose saints securely dwell.
4 sets of stairs like this in the whole country.
Spiral staircases with no center support.
Freestanding. The symmetry was so much more important to these early architects, like Truman Angel, who designed this building, than anything practical. And so they literally incorporated the elements and blended them together, rather than move a door or make it shorter. They wanted to make sure that it had this perfect symmetry and order in everything that was organized. This is basically the earliest form of meeting house that Mormons made. Mormons originally would only meet outdoors or in homes. But occasionally in the 1850s through 1890s, they would build these grand edifices for larger conferences and call them tabernacles. Tabernacles have generally been open to the public and temples are closed for ceremonies. But even in tabernacles, some ordinances have been done. Some of the tabernacles have baptistries, for example, where they do baptisms. Whereas a temple, people only go into those edifices to do the sacred ceremonies of the temple.
In a temple, we wouldn't be able to film inside.
Correct.
Me as a Gentile.
Right. In fact, generally you can only go in if you have what's called a temple recommend, which is basically a statement of faith saying that you believe in those things. And
driver's license.
yeah, I guess you could.
church.
Makes you a card-carrying Mormon. Some people might look at a symbol like the all-seeing eye and seeing that like, oh no, God's watching me all the time. How invasive. But I think the idea of the all-seeing eye is meant to be comforting, that God is always with us. God is always present with us, watching all that we do, looking over us in a benevolent way, right?
Is it God or is it Heavenly Father?
Okay, so God, of course, is a very generic word in English for any deity. Heavenly Father is something Mormons use a lot, and that
You're God.
as the way we view God, right?
Yeah.
We view God as a father. And that actually goes back to one of the fundamental differences between a Mormon fundamentalist and the mainstream LDS, is that we believe that God is our literal ancestor. And that this is what's called the Adam God doctrine, the idea that the human race descends directly from the gods. So that in this sense, God as a father has a wife who is our mother. And we are literally his descendants rather than just being a created thing. Like he didn't just make us out of mud. The human race was given birth to the same way that we're all created. Now, I'm made of the dust of this earth, right? But that doesn't mean that I was made, my parents ordered me from a catalog, right? I was born the same way any other human being is born. So Mormonism sees kind of a joyful marriage between nature and divinity. All these natural processes, like even childbearing, are divine in their nature, divine in their origin. Everything in Mormonism points to this concept of the infinite generations of the gods, that we are divine in our nature. But it's too on the nose for most Christians, and so they've been doing a lot of backpedaling in the last several decades in the mainstream LDS Church away from stating those ideas too explicitly, because it's viewed as heresy. Of course, as far as we're concerned, that just makes everyone else heretics, right? Because for us it's fun, it's fundamental. Oh, check out the belly, Mama Puppety. That's cute.
So Benjamin, is your wife showing up today?
She's hanging out with her parents in Cedar City, but we can meet up with her.
Okay. And how many wives do you have?
I have one wife that's with me. I've lost one wife.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't know that.
My first wife was just, she said she was so open to it. So we got married right here in the St. George Temple.
Okay.
I remember talking to her about how we were going to live plural marriage. And she's like, yes, I'm on board, and all of that stuff. When it started coming down to the possibility of it really happening, she changed her attitude. And the funny thing is I was willing to stay monogamous with her permanently.
Okay.
We were monogamous for a long time, and I never dated. We don't do that. I never looked for another wife, anything. But we were married for almost 20 years, and then she finally decided that she wanted to do her own thing. So.
Okay.
This is my son-in-law, Simeon, my daughter, Marissa, and son, Jeremiah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Maybe a silly question, but plural marriage or no?
We aren't living
We aren't living it, no. Just us and the little one.
First
on the way.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Little girl, so
Oh, cool.
be
Congrats.
here any day. We do believe in plural marriage, and I actually grew up in a plural family.
Okay,
So-
okay.
Both did.
You both did?
Yeah.
Would you be open to it or no?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I think it's important actually. So not just open. I'm like, yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Like whenever we feel like God has called us to do that, then the time will come or whatever. So
Okay, so would it be your bishop that tells you this, or you decide on your own as a relationship?
So
It's kind of a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, we're not forced into it. It's all whether we want to or not.
Okay.
Like, we're not forced into it or anything.
What was it like growing up? You had multiple mothers, correct?
Yeah.
And then one father. What was that like? I mean, sure, you could speak for days on it, but what was that?
To be honest with awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would describe it as awesome. Like that, as a kid, no question, that was so cool for me.
Just because you had a bunch of brothers and sisters?
Yeah,
And...
I'm actually the youngest of my dad's, and actually my mom's too. So I'm the youngest.
Okay.
So I have 18 other siblings besides me. So yeah, like totally awesome. Like they've gone all sorts of different ways and careers and all sorts of stuff. And so I get a lot of different experience, and I can kind of like work with them and
Sure.
do different things with them. So it's way cool.
And you? Same
So
story?
I'm the second youngest, and there's 22 of us total, myself included. So having that many siblings is a lot, which I'm sure you can imagine.
Wow.
My oldest brother, he's the oldest, the twins, I can't remember how old they are. I think they're like 46. So I didn't really grow up knowing them because they were like moved out and probably married before I was even born. So like it's important to realize that like the whole plural situation is based off of whether we want to or not. Like none of us are forced into it, which I mean the children.
In your church?
Yeah. Everybody has to consent basically, and let's say a second wife or whatever comes for the both of us, like we would both have to say yes and she had to say yes, and then it would happen. So like
What if you would say no and you want yes? Or that's just to be determined, like you have to talk that out, or how does it work?
Yeah, you know, if it like came down to it, like plural marriage and like whether we live it or not, like we both take that really seriously.
Right.
There's like different stigmas around it, but making one marriage work is a lot of work. So unless
Let
you
alone
really
with
believe
another
this,
one.
don't do it again. Like
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
lot of work.
It's not something you should advise to just anybody, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
we both agree that it's highly important that children are raised under their mothers, like not just handed off to schools or babysitters. So, like we both agree that like stay-at-home moms are important, and then he would be providing for me and my children. Or
Would you do homeschooling?
I would love to.
Okay.
I was homeschooled for most of my life, so.
And who was telling me, I'm sorry, I met a lot of new people today, but you're, how did you say it? Plural marriage twin.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So you met Trina.
Yeah.
She was one of my moms growing up, and my mom, and so they were pregnant at the same time, and me and my sister were born 2 hours apart. So, different moms, but twins.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Same father,
Yeah.
different moms, 2 hours apart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very rare, right? Or is that common?
That's not common.
I wouldn't say that's common.
That's
Especially in the same family, like, not at all.
Okay. Do you feel like you have to explain yourselves a lot, or nobody really knows? Would you say?
Yeah.
Well, we live in a community that
Yeah, I mean,
lives
definitely,
it
there's a
and
lot of
has
explanation.
been around us for a long time, so
Right.
like they know us, and
Yeah.
we're all family.
Okay, so growing up, the outside world, that being me and people that are non-believing, would you avoid them at all costs? Or just you wouldn't associate, or?
You know, I'd say it's kind of like a mixed bag, and it
Okay.
just like
It really is.
depends. I went to public school at one point there in Mesquite, and I had like friends and whatnot. So
Did you ever have to deal with anyone looking down on you guys? Like judging you? You felt like a judgment or anything?
probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
We were actually kind of raised in the middle of like nowhere, and we didn't go to public school or anything like that. But so at the time in Utah where we lived, plural marriage was illegal. And so there was a time where cops had visited our house, and it was terrifying because we didn't want to be taken away from our family, you know. And so we were like hiding, and like, of course it was scary because we didn't want to be taken away and whatnot. But like,
So that's what's happened in Utah law, right? It's illegal as in felony,
Right.
and then now it's legal, right?
Right, yeah.
Or it's like a $50 fine or something ridiculous like
I
that.
don't really know.
Right.
Yeah.
But so the pressure isn't on now, but
Right.
not long ago the pressure was
Right.
on.
And like I've heard stories about other people that would like Donica, his sister, would say they'd have to like dive into the bushes to hide from people, or which our parents built that fear into us growing up, which is just kind of how
There
they
was
were
definitely
raised,
I'm a little bit younger, but I think some of my older siblings, they had more of that, like, hey, they're gonna come get us or whatever.
Okay.
And take us away from our families.
As time passes, people have gotten more open about it, and we don't have to like hide our children from anybody or anything like that. So,
What do you think about secular types that have a bunch of girlfriends, or they're with one girl, then they're with another, they're dating around? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm sure there's plenty of people that do that kind of stuff, but I don't really, I guess for me, like, religiously, I wanted to find the right one. And dating around forever and going on about that, I wanted to, like, pray about who I was supposed to be with and find the one, you know, so.
All right.
Accept the gold back.
Oh, the gold
I
bag.
did see that on the door.
Yes, step right over here.
Oh, that's cool.
We're, as far as I know, one of the only suppliers of the gold backs in St. George, Utah. But there are companies that accept them for payment, like Judd's. You can get soup, homemade soup and sandwiches for gold backs.
So back in 2011, basically the government of Utah decided that we were going to accept gold and silver as money. A company actually developed this particular product, and it's actually just that amount of gold in a currency form. Several different states have actually authorized it. This is actually a Nevada gold back.
And so there's gold in the currency.
There's actually 1/1000th of 1 ounce in that currency.
Okay, so by saying one, that's not $1, that's one what?
Yeah, so it's one gold back. It's considered one single gold back.
And it sticks to the spot gold price versus
yeah, so
the dollar?
the valuation, you can actually look it up online, goldback.com, and it'll actually tell you what the exact amount of value is with this particular currency. A lot of folks feel like it's going to manifest itself as far as the value here very soon, you know.
Okay.
Going towards the actual true value of what gold is.
So it's a hedge against inflation potentially.
Definitely, it's one of the things that we do here. You know,
Okay.
we're actually gold and silver brokers. So.
Okay, yeah, cool shop you got. That is so cool.
That's an intimidating little
That is
construct right
amazing.
there.
Look how much work went into that.
that's pretty cool.
So this is the real Pioneer Museum stuff right here. The Daughters of the Utah Pioneers keeps all the artifacts, all kinds of cool stuff.
Thank you. So you guys do a great job with genealogy too.
Oh, that's really important. And it's important to our faith too, because we believe that we're connected beyond death, through the veil, to all of our ancestors and all of our descendants. And so we view ourselves as being part of this continuum, right? We're not as individualistic, I think, as most Americans are. The Mormon faith is really about becoming united. This is why our vision of Zion is this concept of being of one heart and one mind. In other words, unity of purpose, unity of legacy throughout time, the past, the present, the future. We're trying to build something and change the world. You know, a lot of religions, they look at heaven as like something that's going to happen later after this life. We view our purpose more as we need to make heaven here. We need to build it now.
What about the second coming? There's always been a talk of the second coming basically since day one.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're worried about the second coming, that's some future event, not the now.
Actually, quite the opposite. In Mormonism, instead of us viewing the second coming as a Jesus just showing up, like he's coming out of the blue, he's doing all the work, we actually view ourselves as participants. If we build the earth into the type of world in which Jesus would want to live, he will come back to dwell with us. And so it's really, we view it as our duty to create the kind of world, to create the Zion, where Jesus Christ could reign personally on the earth. And so we don't believe his second coming is actually going to happen until he has a people to come to. And that's why we believe it's so important for us to continue to live all the laws of the gospel, including plural marriage and building Zion, the United Order, and all that stuff.
But if society slips, let's say things get worse here,
Sure.
then you're further away from the second coming.
Could be, yeah. But it doesn't necessarily require that everyone is going to live this way, or everyone's going to live the way of peace. Okay. That's why the Bible is replete with a lot of terrible judgments too that happen. but it's more of you have to decide what side you're on. Do you want to live in a world of peace? Are you capable of forgiving your enemy? Or are you going to be one of those people who's going to be stubborn until the Lord's destruction is poured out upon the world? I was taking a look at some of these old firearms and some of the story. This is about the Mormon Underground period in the 1880s. Wilford Woodruff came. They were arresting all the church leaders for polygamy and attempting to really shut down the entire church. They wanted to arrest all the leaders, seize all the assets, close down things like that tabernacle. These firearms were used by different Mormons at the time to protect themselves from federal marshals, because the feds had come in. There was something called the Utah Commission, and their job was to come into Utah, arrest all the Mormon leadership, and imprison them all, if possible, and then seize all the church's assets. They wanted to seize everything from these United Order farms that were growing our food.
Why were they doing that?
Well, for one thing, there's a lot of money in it. If you have the chance to plunder an entire state, you're talking about a lot of plunder here. But on top of that, ostensibly it was to enforce the anti-polygamy laws. So they said there's only one way to get rid of polygamy, and that is to get rid of all the polygamists. Well, it turns out that was basically all the Mormons.
So you're not going to see this at an LDS museum?
No, you're not going to see this at most LDS museums, because they don't want to talk about polygamy. They don't want to talk about fighting the feds. They don't want to talk about any of that, because it's kind of an embarrassment. For more than a century, Mormons have been doing everything that they can to appear accepted by mainstream society, right? And it doesn't look as good if you're fighting against the United States and America. At the time, though, there was this understanding that you couldn't be a Mormon and be an American. It was like a rival United States. If you could think of Salt Lake City as like a rival Washington, D.C., with a totally different set of values and ideas and religion, they wanted to be their own nation out here.
Currency.
Yep, they had their own currency, had their own language, they had their own...
own language?
Well, the Deset Alphabet. We should ask them if they have any of the old books here. Okay, so... there's some articles about its history. It was totally unique and actually...
Oh, there
here
it
we
is.
go.
Okay.
So basically it was a phonetic alphabet. It was still English, but it was written in a totally different and phonetic way. All these different Mormon pioneers, they came from all over Europe, all over the South Pacific as well. There's a strong Tongan, Samoan, and Hawaiian presence in early Mormonism, and they wanted to learn how to read and write English, and so they used the Deset Alphabet as a way to spell phonetically. So this reads the Deset Alphabet.
We were talking about the number of converts. Are we growing, or are we staying stable, or are we going, declining in membership? And we aren't declining. We actually have had some, but we're not converting thousands of members like the mainstream Brighamite LDS Church in Salt Lake City. But we're currently teaching probably about 6 different households. And this isn't for everybody. This lifestyle. We're not fishers of men, we're more like hunters. And it takes a certain type of person to live this lifestyle. He's the temple president, and I'm the temple matron for our temple where we live in Nevada.
So why Nevada?
Because we were called to move there. We were asked to move there and start up a community.
So the prophet of the church got a revelation. He told you, go to Nevada.
Yeah.
Okay.
The laws in Nevada are as such that we can't be as persecuted, I guess, so to speak, if we could in some other states, because they allow, things like prostitution.
Yeah, it'd be 3 feet.
And so, it's okay, and you'd be able to have, multiple relationships. I mean, men there all the time.
Okay.
Do those kinds of things, and so the laws there make it so that our lifestyle is a little bit more palatable and livable.
Okay, because in Utah it flips back and forth, right?
Yep.
It was a felony at one time?
Yep, and now it's a misdemeanor.
But they're not really arresting anyone for it,
Not
right?
really, unless there's other abuses going on.
And unfortunately for you, it all gets batched into one, right? Everyone
does.
thinks just like the abuses and...
Right, everybody thinks that one abuser speaks for everybody and is the example for everybody, but it's not. And, there's various different fundamentalist communities, and we're not all the same. We don't all follow the same people. We're not all FLDS, and that's not our group at all. And we don't follow Warren Jeffs. He's in jail for some pretty bad things, and we don't agree with what he did.
So a lot of LDS members don't even know this, right?
Correct.
Okay. They don't. They just think FLDS.
Yeah, they think all fundamentalists are FLDS, and they're not. This is more than just a religion for us. We lean on each other, you know. We're not related blood-wise for generations. Maybe DNA test shows or something shows that we're ninth cousins, but we would have never known each other otherwise if we hadn't have been in this situation and in this religion and became true family.
Okay.
I know that in my community where I live, my husband might be at work and I might need something. Maybe the swamp cleaner had a problem and it's now flooding my roof or something. I know I can just get on our text group or I can make a phone call and somebody will be there to help me soon.
So you're spread out in Nevada, St. George, near Salt Lake. Any other locations I'm missing?
I'm in Vernal, Nevada.
You know, the main thing is that we do believe in gathering, right? We want to be gathered together into one community. We haven't necessarily all succeeded at doing that yet, but our gathering place in Nevada really has that special value because when you come there, that's where we built the temple. That's where we grow our own food. That's where we can build each other's houses.
You grow your own food in Nevada.
Yeah, which is, is not exactly the best place to go to grow your own food.
We grow a lot of our food, but we grow a lot of food there. Yeah.
Is it the new Zion?
Well, Zion first has to be built within, right? First you have to become a Zion people, then you can build a city. So it's not exactly the glistening new Jerusalem yet, right? But it makes us into a Zion people.
It's the Zion prep.
Zion prep.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Salt Lake doesn't mean as much to you guys as out there in Nevada?
Well, basically that's just an older, more failed experiment, really. Like they tried to make a Zion there, and that was beautiful back in the pioneer days, and they did build a lot of beautiful things. But what's come out of that now is they've become worldly. It's just like any other city in America.
Well, yeah, you mean they failed? What do you mean they failed?
They failed to become a Zion people. They became eventually became about money. I mean, especially if you look at
you can't say for everyone, right? I mean,
well, no, I'm not trying to speak for.
There's a lot of good people in the Mormon Church,
there's
and we still love the Mormon. We call it the Mother Church, but yeah, there are just a tremendous amount of good people, and we love them. And some of them will come to us, and many won't. Most won't.
We all have a role to play.
As far as I'm concerned, this is not only my heritage, this is part of our faith. It wasn't until long after this temple was completed before they broke off from us. And
so I was asking off camera, why do you want to come here if this is an LDS church? But that's the answer.
Yeah, this temple was built by our pioneer forefathers. This was a bastion of plural marriage. It was built by consecration. The men and women that built this temple dedicated all that they possessed, and they lived the law of consecration in its fullness, the same way that we do today. The difference is that the mainstream LDS Church has departed from that, and by the 1930s, it was really important to the federal government that these edifices not fall into the hands of Mormon fundamentalists.
So the church has progressed on. Mm-hmm. You don't think that's a good thing? Like, things progress, things change?
Things should progress and things should change. We want to live in a modern world, right? The difference to me is that in order to appease their enemies, they abandoned the faith. One of the most important things about the temple are the holy ordinances that are performed here. What does that mean? An ordinance of the temple is a sacred ceremony by which we approach God, where we learn how to come into God's presence. So you're supposed to receive actual authority, power, understanding when you receive these ordinances. Well, they've changed so much the fundamental meaning of those ordinances. For example, originally here in the St. George Temple and in our temples today in Christ Church, going to the temple would be a big experiential moment in your life where you can actually become something new. You don't just watch something happen. You don't just worship or pray. You actually experience what it's like to go through the entire plan of God. Mm-hmm. And you would actually take the role of Adam or Eve and their path through creating the earth, coming to the earth, and eventually ascending back into heaven. Well, the mainstream LDS Church has changed, so fundamentally altered those ordinances that they no longer have the same meaning for them or the same covenants. And so I would say, if you didn't do it, you didn't do it. Now they watch a video about it instead of actually experiencing that journey of exaltation.
Do you have LDS friends?
Oh, lots, yeah.
So you get in debates a lot with
Oh,
this
yeah.
session, right? Sure.
I was a temple worker, an ordinance worker in the mainstream LDS Church, and I remain a temple worker in Christ Church now. So I do think my opinions are informed opinions, right? But obviously they're going to disagree. A lot of them think that it's good to change these ordinances because they're faster, they're easier, they can watch a video. They still feel like they're being close to God, even if they're making different promises to Him, right? But I would say if you don't make the same covenants, you can't expect the same results. You can't expect the same blessings. I think of it like a recipe. If somebody says, oh yeah, we want to make cookies, and then they start changing all the ingredients, who knows what's going to come out of that oven, right? And it's the same thing, I think, when it comes to religion. You put in this, certain elements, you're going to get a certain result.
So where do you see the LDS Church in 20 years?
Oh, probably even further afield. One of the big changes that I've been anticipating for some time is I think they're going to have gay temple marriages for homosexual marriage.
Okay, you're against that.
Well, honestly, since I don't think that their ceremonies are valid, I think they should be as inclusive as possible anyway. But yeah, there is a certain amount of heteronormativity that is really kind of baked into the Mormon worldview. We believe in this idea that our attributes, even our bodies, right, are divine in origin. That means that, yeah, our gender is part of our identity. That men and women are different. That doesn't, not to say they're unequal, but they are complementary.
What if a gay couple tried to come into your church?
We actually have some gay members, and we did have a gay couple that moved into our gathering place.
Okay.
And they were welcome to participate on a social level.
Okay.
And we try to be good neighbors. People need some love and acceptance, but that doesn't mean that we can change what our view is of the entire plan of God or the entire creation of the world. I mean, I almost like to think of this in terms of like Asian philosophy, which bears certain odd similarities to Mormonism. Male and female, the yin and the yang, these are fundamental concepts. It's not about any individual's personal sexual expression. It's about the fact that we view these things as the fundamental reality that underlies, existence itself. And the fact that those things are gendered, it leads to a worldview that has a certain amount of that in it. This is one of the reasons why there's so much focus on families. Yeah. Right? It's about, what is that about? It's about procreation, but it's also about all of our relationships in that creative, thriving community. That's the goal. We're hungry. Let's do this. We often cover our heads when we pray. Women often will wear like a light veil. Men will often wear like a kippah or a kufi. It's symbolic of eternity. It's circular, it's white, and it represents our submission to God, and that God is our head. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this wonderful lunch and that we're able to be here with Peter to eat it. Please bless him for providing this wonderful food for us, and please bless all of us that we'll be able to have thy spirit and have a wonderful day today. That we'll be able to enjoy all of these sites of our history with the pioneers. That we'll be able to learn something to bring home with us so that we can be motivated to greater righteousness. I say this in Jesus Christ.
It's a vitality map. What it does is in just a few seconds, it changes the food. It reads the nearest person to it, and it changes it into a vibration that's healthy for you.
Thank you. Would you like one of my shrimps?
Oh, thank you. I don't eat shrimp.
Okay.
That's my choice. I'm just fastidious about what goes in here.
Okay.
And shrimp are known to have a lot of heavy metals and toxins. Now, I really don't want your appetite, haven't I?
Eat some heavy metal.
I'm going to take some heavy metal. So, you guys all are pretty healthy, right? Is that something in the church?
But a part of it.
Yeah.
We all try to strive to be healthy.
Not all of them,
but we strive.
Not all of them. Some people don't care what they put in there.
That's true.
It's interesting that you have connected with us because, as my observation and experience of the last 80 years, this group of people are the most unique of all the Mormon groups of any kind, including the Church in Salt Lake. I grew up in the Church in Salt Lake. I know it from top to bottom. I've lived with general authorities, personal friends with some of them, been in and out all the way along. This little group of people did not come out of fundamentalists.
Okay.
But it came out of a core group of leaders that had the original teachings and connections that Joseph Smith had. And this was deliberately and directly organized about 40 years ago on that basis and on the foundation, the very foundation principles.
And this is just, there's no laws that said that, but to me, in my heart, the core requirement is you've got to have a testimony that Joseph Smith was and is a prophet of God and still leads this church. And the Book of Mormon is the Word of God.
So Nelson means nothing to all of you. Is that correct? The current president?
He's just a good man, but he's not our prophet.
Right. We usually don't want to criticize.
Okay, that's great. So LDS members look at Nelson as their North Star, let's say.
Right.
And you're looking at Joseph Smith.
Well, yes, ultimately, and so are they.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's.
But, I mean, so we all go back to Joseph Smith, right? But our prophet is not Nelson. We have a different prophet.
So most everyone here came from LDS?
Yeah. Well, they were born in it.
They were born in it.
I'm a seventh generation LDS.
I have no idea.
Left the LDS church and came here.
What made you leave the LDS church to come here?
Damn. No. I mean, we had a missionary come to our house and talk to us and share the gospel with us, but before that we were searching because we had a feeling like something was missing in the LDS church. It wasn't the same as when I was growing up, as it was in the 90s and the early 2000s. It wasn't the same as in the 70s. And so, you know, we were searching. Where did that priesthood go, that the power that the saints would say, you know, I was cured of this and I was healed of that. I have a great-grandfather who was healed by the missionaries in New York in the early 1800s, and he could walk. He was going to lose his leg, and they healed him and he could walk after baptism. They promised him if he wanted to get baptized, he could walk down to the water and get baptized, and he wouldn't ever need this cane again, and his leg would heal. And he did, and he converted. And you don't see those things today in the LDS church. And so we started searching because we felt like there was something missing.
Do you feel like nobody drinks here, obviously, but the LDS church is Coors Light and you're Coors? Is that a way of saying
Sure,
it?
yeah, that's a way of saying it.
I don't understand
We're
that
not
at all,
decaf.
You're not decaf, yeah. All right, Benjamin, that's how the cookie crumbles. I just said goodbye to everyone and got hugs from everyone and didn't have the power button on, so well, everyone gave me hugs and smiles, and thank you for bringing me out.
You bet.
Because you don't have to, it's not an easy group to get into, no offense.
True.
Fundamentalist Mormons, because the camera comes out and people are worried.
People get shy. I mean, it wasn't very many years ago that people were killed for having this religion. It wasn't very many years ago that people were in prison just for believing in this religion. Okay. And so, yeah, a lot of people are nervous. But in fact, one of the people today was just saying, oh, my father would freak out if they were doing this. But, you know, we live in a world now where people can live as they believe. They can be more vocal about it, and they're less likely to have any problems, you know?
Anything else you'd like to say to the viewers, people out there watching?
Yeah, sure. I guess what I'd really like to say is, you know, we might be different, come from different walks of life, believe different things, but we're all people. And that's really what I want to do, is I want to build a bridge so that people won't be afraid of us, and that we'll be able to have these conversations because we live in the same world, we live in the same communities. Hey, in Mormonism, we're all Mormons,
Right.
but there are these divisions that have really come between people, and I'd like to see us break down those barriers.
All right.
So,
Benjamin, good stuff.
yep. Thank
you,
man.
brother.
Have a good one.
You too, man.